Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat Certified Specialists in Managing Automation with Ansible Automation Platform, exam EX467. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button. Also, a reminder that these are my practice sessions for the exam. My exam's just under a week away, so I'm going through all of the objectives published by Red Hat and trying to either demonstrate the objective or talk about whatever concept the objective is about. And at the end of the video, I will do a little self-assessment, and hopefully I'll feel confident with whatever the objective is. And if not, I have a little bit of time left to do some brushing up and maybe fill in some last-minute knowledge gaps before I take the exam. That being said, I do try to have the information accurate because at this point in my preparation, I hope I have not learned stuff wrong, but these should not be considered tutorials, nor should they be considered training materials, nor should they be considered authoritative information. I myself am still learning the concepts for this exam, and I put these out on the internet in hopes of folks that are preparing for the exam might see some of the stuff that I do and develop some ideas of their own of how to prepare, but I would not consider my videos authoritative tutorials by any means. So moving along, we're going to go into the Manage Automation Controller Workflows set of objectives, and I believe we'll be able to touch all three of these within a single video. I've went ahead and created me a little environment that hopefully is going to work. I have not actually run it yet. I figured that I would do that as a part of the practice session and do some troubleshooting, because no doubt there will be something on the exam that's probably going to be broken and you have to make it work as part of what you have to do on the exam. Of course, I don't know, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you because of NDA, but if I were writing an exam, I would write some stuff that was broken and say, all right, it should be doing this. And then you as the practitioner get to figure it out. So workflows are a really nifty feature, I think, of Ansible Automation Platform. And I'm not in a position where I actually get to use this in a production environment. I've always just used plain Ansible in my playbooks and all that kind of stuff. But if I were to have the opportunity to have this in production, this would be a really neat feature. This allows you to have some logic of running your playbooks, and you could probably do this with a scripting. You could write a bash script that will run playbooks, and then based off of the exit codes and such, you can have it do stuff. But this is a pretty nifty feature. So getting right into it, we're going to log in as one of my test users. I should have permissions set as desired. We'll find out in a moment. Yep, looks like I can add a workflow template. Excellent. So I have a couple of job templates here. And what they do, this configure status server, if I were to actually go to my command line here, we can take a look at the playbooks. Now these are very contrived examples. I mean, I would not do this in this way for production, but it's just for demonstrating how the workflows work. So if I were to less my configure status server, what this is going to do is set up a little Apache web server and spit out a web page. And on the web page is going to have a status message of some kind. And the status message is based off of a survey that I have configured that when you run the playbook, you pick a survey item and it's either going to say the playbooks were successful or the playbooks failed. There's no like web app that's showing the status of some application. It's just a little static web page. So that's one of the jobs that we'll be potentially working with our workflow. The others are, again, things I would not do it this way normally, but just to set up something to have a workflow. We have one playbook that will set up some web servers. And all this is doing is just installing Apache, making sure that it is started and enabled and opening port 80 on the firewall. And the last web server, or the last playbook, is on that same set of web servers going to create an index.html page and restart Apache if it changes. And that index.html page is simply saying welcome to whatever the host name is of the server based off of Ansible facts. So nothing that you really couldn't do all in one playbook, but again, the point is doing the workflows. So to create these workflows, we will add a workflow template, and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it deploy web page. And this is obviously going to be in the test org 1. That's the only org this user has access to. I haven't thought about doing an inventory at the workflow template level, because each of the job templates that this is going to be using will use a workflow. So we're actually going to leave that blank. I'm curious to see what'll happen. I don't think there will be any issue with it. Now, this little enable webhook is kind of interesting. You've probably seen stuff about like event-driven Ansible. Well, you can set up webhooks to where if some event happens in your source control, GitHub or GitLab, it can send an HTTP request to your controller, and that will make the webhook work, and then your workflow will kick off based off of like a pull request being accepted or the like, which is kind of a nifty thing. I think configuring that maybe is outside the scope of the exam. Hopefully it is. I mean, I could probably fumble through and get it to work, but it's not something I have necessarily prepared. So when you click save, you are brought to the, it's like the little visualizer or GUI to set this up. So we will click start, and what we're going to start with is running a job template, and we'll start with installing the web servers. Convergence, if I remember off the top of my head, it's like you can set this up to where multiple endpoints could end on this thing, and I think that's what convergence is about. Frankly, that's something that I need to refresh in my head before the exam, because I can't remember exactly what's going on with that. You can give the node an alias. This is mainly for the visualizer and how it will look, but I'm not 100% convinced of the value of the aliases other than maybe a cosmetic thing. One thing that is kind of annoying, now granted this is on my little VM in the console session, so I don't have a whole lot of screen real estate, but when I was doing practice exercises and such that, have instructions to set up an alias for your workflow template pieces, I would always forget to scroll down and hit the node alias. So if you have to do that on the exam, just remember to do that. So we'll click save, and so what this is going to do, says JT stands for job template. It's going to install the web servers. If this is successful, then I want a couple of things to happen. One, on a success, I want it to, and I'm clicking, by the way, to get that, I am clicking the plus sign. You can also view information about what you just made. You can edit it. Link to an available node. Let's see what that's about. Click escape there, or hit escape. I guess if I didn't already have it going to something else, I could link that there, and then you can get rid of it. But anyway, so on a success, we also want it to configure the web page. We're not going to give that an alias, and life is good. Let's say that just the first part failed. Well, what I can do is on failure, I can say we want to configure the status server, and what we have to do is give that status server an answer for its survey, or it's not status server, that job template, an answer for its survey, because this is a required question. And if it failed, we want that to say the config playbooks failed. And if the configure web page piece was successful, then we know everything succeeded. So we can say on success, we also want to configure the status server. We want it to say the config playbooks were successful. And then if this fails, we're going to run the configure status server again, but give it the config playbooks failed message. So I think I can zoom out maybe with this. Probably not. Beauty of laptop and console window. On just my laptop, I will be able to zoom. So we're going to run this job template. If it's successful, it'll try to do the web page. If it's unsuccessful, it will make that noted on the status server. And then after the web page, I will potentially run the status servers. And again, this is a very contrived example, but it gives you an idea of what this can do. Oh, this was something that I failed to mention on one of my other practice sessions for job templates, and this is true for your for workflows as well. You can create a schedule, which basically is going to be like a cron job, and it'll run this, either run it once or at whatever frequency that you would like to have it. I'm not going to configure that here, but just give you an idea. All right, so we have the workflow template, and let's click launch. Let's see what happens. Did I write my playbooks correctly the first time? Another nice little thing, if you're wanting to sit at the console and watch this, you get the little visualization here. And these are fresh web servers, so the installs and such are probably going to take just a bit. So I may pause and then come back when there is some action to note. All right, so we saw that install web servers seems to have been successful, and configure the web page was successful. And now, all right, so it failed to do the status server. So I'll be curious to see where it failed with the status server. But in theory, I should be able to go to both Lab Node 1 and Lab Node 2 and see their web page. So let's see what happens. All right, that looks good. Lab Node 1. Let's try Lab Node 2. All right, that was successful. Now let's see what happened here. So it's kind of nice. You can click because each of those pieces of the workflow template is its own job. So we can go to the output, and let's see, mapping values not aligned in this context. I see what I did. Okay, well, so let's fix this real quick, then we'll run this again, and everything should be successful. So let's go into configure status server. Yep, I have an errant colon. Everything else looks good. Okay, so we'll sync our project, and let's go back to our job templates, and we're going to run the workflow again. This time it should go a little faster because the web server is already installed on the other two lab nodes. Yeah, it's not taking nearly as much time. The status server will, because it never did finish the first time. Okay, so now we should be able to go to Lab Node 3, and we should see, yep, the config playbooks were successful. So job flow works as intended, and I can't say I didn't make any mistakes on my playbook because I did mess up the configure status server, but at least a couple of the playbooks I got right the first time. All right, so we've made workflow templates. We've launched the workflows. This configure workflow jobs for automatic approval kind of bothers me, because the whole point of having an approval process is that something is not automatic. You want somebody to say yay or nay, continue with the job or not. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what Red Hat's getting at with that. I guess what you could do, well, first of all, let's make an approval. Let's say that, actually, I think we can add one to the start here. Can we do this? We should be able to. Go back to our template. No, we want to edit go to visualizer. Oh, there it is. I don't know why I didn't. Well, maybe I wasn't in like an edit mode. Anyway, so we can make an approval. Oh, and there's other things we can do as well. We can, if we wanted to, at the very beginning of the workflow, we can go ahead and have it run the project sync. So if you make a change to GitHub or GitLab or wherever it is, you have your source of truth for your project. It can do that. You can also kick off other or other workflow templates if you want. Anyway, we're going to do an approval. And we're going to Can we start? Will be the name of it. You can give it a timeout. So if someone doesn't respond after a certain amount of time, I'm just going to say 5 minutes. You can, it will automatically fail. At least that's my understanding of it. It's not going to automatically pass because, again, why even have the approval? So I'm not actually sure if this user can approve stuff, but actually what I'm going to do, remove that. I'm going to add the approval here. Well, no, let me do this. Just to give us a way of yeah, I see what I can do. So I'm getting this is one thing I do encourage you with your own preparation is as you're doing stuff, experiment. Try things. It may work. It may not work. When it doesn't work, it'll give you an idea of, well, if you break something, how it might look when you have broken it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an approval. Give it a 5-minute timeout. And if success, okay, this might be what I was looking for here. Yeah, there we go. So on success, we will run that. And this is going to be nifty. Okay. I'm going to save this because I need to go and add another option to the configure status server. We see the activity. It shows the last few attempts at doing whatever it is that you were working on. I should be able to edit these. Yeah. So configure status server. We're going to add, cancel. We're going to add an option to our survey. Approval was denied. You'll see what I'm going to do in just a moment here. Let's go back to, let's go back to our workflow template. And on failure, we're going to run the config status server. We're going to choose the approval was denied. And then what I'm going to do here is remove this link and see if I can do this. There we go. So that way I don't have to have two separate nodes of that because this is going to display the same message. But I guess it looks kind of unclean. But anyway, this should do what we want. So we're going to launch. We can launch it from here. So the first thing that's up is approval, and it looks like this user can do approvals. So we can either do that here, or we can click the name of the job. So let's see if I can approve that from here. Good. No approval workflows found. If we go back to jobs, you'll see several jobs, but the deploy web page is the workflow, and now it's on this particular playbook. I was not expecting the configure status server, but I was expecting this route here. If I refresh the lab node, it should be the exact same. All right, let's go back to our workflow template, our visualizer. Yeah, we can get rid of this. We do not need that there. Okay, that looks more correct. All right, so this time we are going to disapprove the workflow. And we'll do this by clicking actual approval. And we're going to choose deny. And notice this time it failed, so it's doing the red line to the configure status server. And if we refresh this, it should show the approval was denied message. So again, contrived little examples, but it shows how the workflows can work. And if you're like me, when I first got exposed to this, I started getting ideas of what I can do at work to, because I have several little playbooks that I do for various things, and chaining them together like this is a pretty nifty thing. And then where I could see the approval thing being useful is, let's say that you, in your virtualization environment, want to give users the opportunity to create VMs and such. You can have playbooks to do that. That will have surveys that users can put in, whatever they want for the type of VM, and then you could probably, not quite sure how you would do this, but I'm thinking of, depending on what things users are trying to do. You can set up different approval steps, which of course is nifty to think about, but I haven't thought all the way through exactly how that would work from a technical perspective. But anyway, for the actual objectives, we created workflows, launched the workflows. We did not do automatic approval. I'm not quite sure what that would be unless you basically have you have your approval, and instead of, let me go back to the workflow visualizer. So what you would have as a connection, you would have always. So regardless of if the approval passed or failed, you would move on to the next item. I do want to poke around. I wonder what this convergence really is. Let's see if there's any context to this. Refer to documentation for more info. Preconditions for running this node when there are multiple parents. Well, I guess that might apply to this one because it technically has two different parents. Let's see if anything happens with the GUI if I change this from any to all. I wonder if it means that this will only run if all of them, only if both parents run will this run. We can do a quick little test here. Easy way to test this. I'm going to get rid of that. Add a link here on success. I guess we'll do an example of an always. So this is going to be pretty weird, and we won't give it a timeout of any kind. All right, and this, of course, you're in the way. Let me get rid of you. That's kind of annoying. I was hoping that, I'll just get rid of the test approval then, and then we'll do this. All right, so we're getting rid of that link. You're going to add an always, just to use an always and get an example of it. Test approval. Now, one thing I think would be curious, because in theory, I would imagine we could use the Ansible.controller collection to configure this, but I can't imagine that being a worthwhile workflow. Oh, no. Okay. I see. So we can't just have a node here with no type of link. That's what's going on. All right. So from start, we want to install the web servers. We want to do the test approval. On success of the test approval, so install the web servers, test approval. If this fails, I think I know what I can do to, no, can't do that just yet. I'm about to make the same mistake twice. Can I not delete this? All right, I'll just have to delete the node and probably have to redo, configure the web page. Okay. Ended up taking much more effort than I expected. All right, so once the approval's done, succeed, we will configure the web page. If we, on success, we'll do the status server with the successful message, and then if this fails, okay, this looks right. So my theory is this is not going to run unless unless both of these parents run. So let's see if that's actually what happens. Oh, there's an error saving the workflow. What do you mean I don't have permissions to edit the workflow? Crumble. Did my login timeout? So we exit without saving. All right, that's weird. Because this looks like it's what it's supposed to be. And look at it one more time. So all the web servers is going to ask for approval. If so, do the web page. All right, truth is stranger than fiction. Yay, GUIs. After I just spent a lot of time lauding it. All right, so when we get to the approval, we're going to deny it. Let's see what the status server says. Okay, so the status server did not change. So that tells me that the all probably does that. But again, I would want to actually do a little bit of reading on that just to make sure. But I think for the objectives, I pretty much have a good grasp and understanding of managing automation controller workflows. So if you found the video useful, make sure you do click like and feel free to share it with others. I want to thank returning subscribers again for watching another video, as well as invite you, if you have not subscribed, to click the subscribe button and ring the bell when you do. Thank you again for your time, and I'll see you the next time.